Episode 151, The Unknown Intruder Hiding in the Basement. Several reasons this crime might have been done by an intruder are: Access Graphics employees knew where John lived. AG employees were aware of his daughter because Jonbenet had visited the offices there. Several employees visited the Ramsey house. AG employees worked with foreign offices, and John Ramsey had work enemies. First, Access Graphics employees knew where John Ramsey lived. Boulder's a small town, and back then the Ramsey house didn't have that wrought iron fencing around the front. It was open, and in the back there was the back alleyway. Second, employees knew that John Ramsey had a young daughter because she was at the offices every once in a while. Patsy would bring her by to see John, or when she was doing errands or doing things. Third, this newspaper article that came out on December 21st, 1996 was not the only newspaper article that came out that year about John Ramsey. There was at least 2 or 3 other stories that were done through the year of 1996. So it's not just all about this one article. Also, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of this article, it says 100 employees were in the European offices and in a few in Mexico City. If you look at the ransom note as if it's legit and with an open mind, it kind of tells you who the person is. First, it talks about the foreign faction. That's because it's an employee at Access Graphics, and he knows about their foreign offices. And so he's trying to make it look like he's a foreigner when he's just an angry employee. And then the next thing that I see is it's probably an employee that's younger than John, that knows him but doesn't know him very well. So it's not somebody like Jeffrey Merrick or Mike Glenn. It's somebody that's not friends with John Ramsey. Like the use of daughter throughout the ransom note. That's because he probably wasn't totally sure how to say or spell Jonbenet's name. He might not even have known her name. And then the Southern Common Sense line. He probably didn't know John was from Michigan. He just knew that John and Patsy had a house in Atlanta, and so they were Southerners. So the question is the unknown intruder this guy here? Or is it this guy? Or is it this guy? Or did the intruder live here? Or did he live here? Or did he live here? Or did he live here? Oh no, that's the Zodiac Killer suspect. Or was it this person, Jason? Or was it Bud Henderson? Or was it Bud Henderson's wife? The American Football League started in 1960, and this gentleman played for the Denver Broncos. His name is Jim Perkins, and this is the back of his Topps Pro Football card. And he died of a heart attack while he was working out in 1992. And according to this obituary, he is survived by Jason G. Perkins, who was born on December 1st, 1969. And Jason, for some reason, attended Boise High School and graduated in 1988 from Boise High School. And then he went on to play football at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And he was very good and successful. And then after that, he went into the field of teaching, and he did some coaching at Fairview High School in Boulder, Colorado. And there's a picture of him with the team. And during this time, he was working for Access Graphics. But in December of 1996, he left.
Wait, I gotta stop you right there. During the last video, at the end, you said that Jason Perkins lived at 913 Broadway Street. But I looked it up, and he was at 1509 Brant Court in Boulder, which I found out was Mike Glenn's house. So he must have been living with Mike Glenn, who is the coach or scout for Colorado.
Yes, Mike Glenn and his wife were good friends with John and Patsy Ramsey, and they had been to their house several times. That's true. I'm going back to my story. And then here is a copy of his job summary or resume or something like that. And one thing that I notice, it doesn't include him working at Access Graphics. It just kind of skips over that fact. And he's presently living in Denver, Colorado. So Jason Perkins is definitely a person of interest. And as far as I know, his DNA hasn't been compared with the crime scene DNA. And he definitely knew where the Ramseys, or John Ramsey, lived, because Mike Glenn was good friends with John Ramsey. Curtis Fisher, a close friend of John Ramsey's and a consultant to Access Graphics, was also interviewed. The police had heard that Fisher and Ramsey had a disagreement, and they found it interesting that Fisher left Access Graphics just before Christmas. In their interviews with him, however, Fisher said he had left the firm on friendly terms. On the morning of December 26, he had been on his way to San Antonio. Fisher lived right here at 1949 Cascade Avenue, only 5 blocks away from the Ramsey house. And here's a look at his place. He's on the bottom left corner. So Fisher is definitely a person of interest also. And I don't know if his DNA has been checked to the crime scene. Bud Henderson and Sandra Henderson worked for Access Graphics, and they were caught embezzling money from the company and were fired. And he lived here at 3965 Apache Court. Now, what drew my attention to this was some people looked into Bud, but they kind of didn't look into Sandra as much. Now, they got divorced either just before Jonbenet was murdered or sometime afterwards. And so the person that I think would be a person of interest is Sandra Henderson's boyfriend. And I don't know who that is or if that person exists. I'm just saying that Sandra Henderson was angry with John Ramsey for being fired for embezzling money. And so we know there's unknown male DNA. And they looked into Bud Henderson and his children, his boys. But I don't know if they really investigated if Sandra Henderson had a boyfriend, because she's actually served time in prison or in jail for other crimes. J. Pettypiece was the Ramsey house painter, and maybe he was the one that was waiting in the basement for the Ramseys to get home, and maybe he wrote the ransom note. And here's where he lived, just south of downtown and northwest, northeast of the Ramsey's house. And then here's his house, what it looks like now. It looks like it's vacant or something, not well taken care of. So this person is definitely a person of interest, and I believe he's living presently in Denver because he knew the layout of the Ramsey household. He knew where Jonbenet's bedroom was. He knew where the basement was. He probably knew where the window and the grating was to enter the house. And he's not that big a gentleman, so he could fit through that window. Well, this ends this episode of Unsolved. And what I tried to do in this episode was present ex-Axis Graphics employees that could be or are people of interest. And I also included the house painter, J. Pettypiece. So I'll see you tomorrow night.